for the people who were not present. So we are recording now, just so you know.
Okay.
So just to
Oh, that'd be-
clarify, we are aiming to do two things over the next couple months. This month, the month of April, is going to be all about IWAs. Okay, so this whole month is going to be focused on finishing IWAs. And then for the month of May, I'm going to unsubmit and I'm going to release all of your IRRs for you so that you can make any changes that you want to them and that you can revise them, because as I mentioned to you the other day, the way that your AP score for this class is going to be calculated is it's going to be just based off of your IRR and your IWA. Okay, and if you look at the rubrics for those two things, it's 30 points for the IRR and then 48 points for the IWA. So your score is going to be out of 78 points this year. So for the month of May, I'm going to be releasing everybody's IRRs so that you can go back and you can fix those. Okay, so you will get to see those again. But that's going to be in May. For the month of April, for right now, we're going to focus just on the IWA. And I don't know, did you guys get the message yesterday that we're going to be doing this until the beginning of May now? Did you guys all see that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, school is out till at least May 1st. So for the next 4 weeks, this is what this is going to look like for us, unfortunately. So we're going to work our way through it as best we can. All right. So before we get to questions and answers that you guys have, I'm going to show you a couple things. I want to talk today mostly about introductions for today's topic, because I know I've gotten a few questions about introductions. A lot of you have asked what should be included in your introduction and what shouldn't be. So I have a couple of different resources that I'm going to share with you. I will post both of these files online afterwards, so you can access them. These are not required assignments. These are just organizers and things that you might want to use as like a little checklist for yourself, making sure that you have included everything essential. Don't feel like you have to fill this out and you have to send it back into me. This is not required. This is not any kind of required assignment. This is, again, just for you to sort of see if you've required everything. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what it is we're looking at. All right, so can you guys see a Word document right now?
Yep.
Okay, so then I did this right. All right, so here's the first thing about introductions that I think I want to make very, very clear to you, and that is this. Personally, I wouldn't write an introduction until you've already written most of the rest of your paper. Because here's the reality, okay? If you try to write an introduction first, you have no idea what you are introducing at that point in time, right? Because you haven't written anything yet. So when I sit down to start writing a paper, the only thing that I would write first would be my thesis statement. So I would start with the thesis, and then I would work my way forward after that, and then I would come back and do the rest of my my introduction later, once you have an idea of what your paper's about. Because if you write an introduction too soon, you're simply going to not know what you are introducing. So I would, if you're struggling with your introduction, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just hold off, okay, and then I would go back to it later on. All right. And so then if we're thinking about, you know, when we do sit down to write an introduction for your IWA, what it is that we want to include, there's about 5 to 6 things, okay? And I'm gonna go through this with you with an example. This is from last year's stimulus material, so this is not what we're working on. But I wanted to use an example from last year to kind of show you, okay? And so the first thing that you're gonna wanna open with, and a lot of you are gonna laugh at me for this because I spent a whole year in AP World telling you not to do this, But with this kind of writing, it is something that you're going to want to include, which is something interesting at the beginning. Some kind of an interesting statement, some kind of an anecdote, just something that's going to make people interested in what it is that you're going to write. So you will want to start with some kind of a hook, okay, something like that. And I know it's ironic that I'm talking about that because I spent all of last year telling you that in AP World, we don't do that. But that is kind of what you're going to want to start with, okay? And so if we're looking at an example, then we would start off by saying something like, the notion of night shift employment has existed since the dawn of industrialization and has played an integral role in the United States' economy. So that's an example of a hook. I start with a statistic, okay? I started with this statement about working a night shift, okay? After you have your little hook, then you have to make some kind of a comment on that hook, meaning tell me, who does this affect? Why does it matter? What is relevant about it? This is my so what, okay? Why is this important, okay? And so in this example, we continued, today, the night shift remains prevalent in US society, harboring more than 21 million workers. And then I cited that particular statistic. Its practice, however, has raised concerns about its potential health detriment. Okay, so that's a comment on that at that point in time. Okay?
Yeah.
Probably what the first sentences of your introduction are going to look like. Okay? Then you want to include one of your stimulus materials. Okay? And here's where this is important. It doesn't have to be, but I think it makes sense at this point for the stimulus material that you introduce in your introduction to be the one that you're using extensively. Remember that I was mentioning, I think it was to Cody yesterday, we were talking about you have to use one of the stimulus materials extensively. Okay, and so I would make it the one that you bring up in your introduction. And so if you look at how we bring it in here, notice that I've explicitly named the stimulus material. That is important. If you want to get credit for it, you need to explicitly identify which of the stimulus material you are going to be using. And so we start off this part of the paper by saying, a study from the British Journal of Cancer suggests that long working hours may share a link to long-term risks such as breast cancer. Okay, that is a statistic. Notice that I've properly cited it here, okay? And then I introduce another material. Former US President Richard Nixon famously said in his 1971 speech addressed to the nation on Labor Day that, quote, people must always remember that the most important part of the quality of life is the quality of work. Perhaps hinting at the Occupational Safety and Health Act he signed into law a year prior. Okay, I was very explicit here about what the stimulus materials were, the address to the nation on Labor Day. Okay, I quoted from the source here, and then I made an explicit link to my main idea. Okay, now generally speaking, you want to be, you want to use quotes sparingly. But in this context, I think it's okay, all right? And then the next part of this comes to where you start to look at the larger context of all of this, okay? So neither OSHA nor any federal law currently imposes any specific regulations on night shifts, allowing employers to establish their own workforce policies. And that's another source. That was not from the stimulus packet. That's my own research. Okay, although night shift workers cope with their schedules, it is imperative to understand the current status of night work and how it should be managed by employers. So now I'm kind of laying out what it is I'm going to be looking at. So now I can tell. Notice I don't have a thesis yet, but I can tell that I'm going to be talking about the status of night work and how it should be managed by their employers, okay? So
Mr. Ehlers?
Yes?
Tanis has been raising her hand.
There's a hand raise thing? Oh.
Yeah.
No, I have a question.
Yes.
Tanis has a question.
What do you mean by extensively? Like how
Oh my God.
Look, it's a good question.
No, It is, and this also came up yesterday. So
Water break.
extensively simply means that like it needs to be one of your main sources. It's not something that you're going to use in passing. It needs to have informed your writing rather extensively, meaning like it should be something that inspired your thesis. It should be something which inspired your argument. You should be citing it multiple times throughout the essay. Now, should it be the only source that you use? Absolutely not. But it should definitely be something that comes up multiple times, okay? So I wish I could give you a specific answer, you know, like, well, how many times do you have to cite it? There is nothing in the rubric specifically that says it must be used 7 times or must be used 10 times. So there isn't a real specific number. It just needs to be apparent to the reader that it was a main source of your research, okay? And so it should be something that kind of branches out to the rest of your research topic. Does that kind of answer the question? I know it's not a specific answer, but does that help?
So like if in my introduction I say like when I'm introducing it and then I reference that and I say that like influenced my research and then I mention it like 3 other times, is that good?
I would think so, yeah. Yeah, I think as long as you can show the very specific link to the rest of your research, I think that you're fine. You know, I think if you bring it up in your introduction and you never mention it again, you're going to have problems. But I think if it comes up multiple times throughout the course of the paper, then you're probably okay.
So could I do something where like I use it as a body, like in another body paragraph, say so? Like I can use it as like my analysis in a way, like I can tie it back into that?
Yes.
The stimulus? Okay.
Yeah, it should tie, you know, if it comes up in your introduction, it should tie back in your argument later on, absolutely.
Okay.
So once you bring up the larger context of the problem, okay, once you bring up that kind of larger context, that's going to lead you to your research question, okay? And in this example, the question was, what do the current health impacts of working the night shift suggest about a need for its future regulation within the United States? So this question is basically asking, with regards to the night shift, does it need to be regulated tougher because there are a lot of health impacts of working overnight shifts? Okay, so we move into a research question, and then at the end of our first paragraph, we go into a thesis statement. Now, your thesis statement, okay, needs to include whatever the lenses are that you're going to look at. And just to clarify, again, you do not have to go through every single lens, okay? You are probably gonna look at multiple lenses, but don't think that you have to look at all 5, okay? I would say, you know, 3 is probably a good number, okay? There is no way that in 2,000 words, you're going to be able to do all 5 lenses, but you definitely need to do multiple lenses. So I would say 3 is a good number for that. You're going to talk about what will analyzing the problem do, and then mention a very simple solution, which you will then later go into in more depth. So in this example, okay, we have overall and analysis through the economic, medical, and legal angles. So there's my 3 lenses, show that night shifts do merit government regulation. Okay, so there's my thesis. These regulations ultimately will assist employers in minimizing the health risks of the workers and in maximizing their well-being and their efficiency. Okay, so my simple solution then is that they should be regulated. And then here are my brief reasons as to why I think they should be regulated. Okay, and so if you take all of these things, these 5 areas, or 6 areas, excuse me, and you put them all together, this would be what your opening paragraph might look like. Okay, now this is not a hard and fast thing. You know, if you feel like your intro is already really good and you just want to tweak it, you can do that. If you want it to follow this format, you know, it's definitely something that I recommend. It's not required. And so what I've included in this file, which I'm going to upload to the page after we're done, is on the second page. Okay, if you wanted to use this for your own paper and you wanted to follow this format, you have all of this here. Again, this is not required. This is not any kind of specific assignment. This is just for you to do if you want to go back through your introduction now and you want to make sure that you include each of these 6 things. So I'm going to upload this file. If you want to use it, you can download it. You can use it at your leisure. If you want to look at it and you have any questions about it, you can try working on it and you can ask me about it during office hours any day this week. That's totally fine. But this is, this is something for you to use. This is not required assignment. Okay, this is just like a graphic organizer for you to use that I'll be uploading a little bit later. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna jump back here now.
Whoa.
And I'm gonna take a pause for a minute before I go to the second thing. And I'll just ask, does anybody at this point have any questions about introductions or anything before we move on to the next part of this? Anything at all?
No.
What's the word count?
No.
Nobody?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead. I think that's Amanda talking. Go ahead.
So, like, I still don't understand what you mean by, like, including it in our introduction. Like, what are we supposed to say? Are we supposed to bring in a quote?
It can be a quote. You can just reference the source. So, like, if you look at the example, it can be a quote, but it doesn't have to be. So, like, in this example, okay, notice the first source that I brought up, I didn't use a quote, but I referenced it. So I said, a study from the British Journal of Cancer suggests that working long hours may share a link to long-term risks such as breast cancer. So in that instance, in that example, I mentioned the source, I brought it up, but I didn't quote it. Okay, but then if you look to the second part of this example, I used a second source here. This one I did quote. I said, former President Richard Nixon said in his 1971 speech addressed to the nation on Labor Day that people must always remember that the most important part of the quality of life is the quality of work. So that was a quote. So you can use either one, okay? You can either reference it like this first one, or you can quote it like this second one, okay? But it needs to have been informing your research, okay? Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other questions before we go on? No? All right. So
No, we're good.
what?
We're good.
We're good. Okay. So
We're
the
good.
second thing that I wanted to show you, okay, this would be something, let me share my screen again. This would be something that you would want to do, not in your introductory paragraph, but in your analysis, okay? And so if you're using a source and you're trying to offer information from the source. So your source is obviously going to provide evidence to you, right? Okay, so you're gonna pull a lot of evidence out of a source. Now, it's not enough in this research paper, it's not enough to simply include evidence. You have to go beyond that, okay? Evidence is just the first part. There's really 4 things that you wanna do with your evidence, okay? And so if you look at this graphic organizer, it kind of lays out for you, I think, what those 4 things are. The first one is how does the quote, if it's a quote or if it's just, something from that study or whatever, how does that relate to the significance of the issue or the topic? Why is this perspective important? How does the quote support your claim, your thesis, or your topic sentence? And then how does the quote support the thesis statement? So for example, again, using an example from last year's paper, okay, or from last year's stimulus. If my evidence was, according to Thomas Frieden, former director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, a major role of the government is to protect individuals from harm caused by other individuals or groups. Okay, so if that's my evidence, okay, take a look at how I tie this back into my topic from last year. Okay, how does it relate to the significance of the issue or the topic? So we say, in the case of night shift employment, The government should therefore intervene if night workers are at risk of impaired job performance or the long-term risks of circadian misalignment. That's referring to where your like natural biological clock or your sleep cycle gets messed up because you're working all night and you're sleeping during the day. So this red part here explains why this quote or why this piece of evidence is important, okay? Then we go over here and we talk about why this perspective is important, okay? And we say that as the former director of the CDC, he has experience and he has knowledge in the healthcare industry for providing essential understanding of this issue. This part here is kind of addressing why this person's qualified to say that, okay? Then, how does it support the claim? Okay, this paragraph focuses on the policy that employers should put in place regarding night shift, specifically the legal perspective. So this is addressing laws. This is addressing the fact that the job of the government is to protect individuals from harm. This quote discusses the need of a government intervention and of the government's role in setting employer policies. And then finally, we finish with how the quote supports the thesis. The thesis directly states the need for the government intervention for night shift regulation to improve health, well-being, and work efficiency. Frieden's argument for the government's role in this process can maintain both the well-being of the worker and the integrity of the company or the industry. So I finish then by explaining how this piece of evidence, in this case it's a quote, how this directly ties into my thesis statement. This is how you have to analyze evidence, okay? Notice it's more than just presenting the evidence. You have to go a little bit deeper. You have to go a little bit beyond that, okay? And so that's what all of that is about. Now, are you gonna do all four of those things? Erkins, why are you upside down?
It's a personal choice.
Yo, let him live, bro.
I mean, whatever. All right, so these four things. Now, just to be clear, okay, you don't have to do all four of those things for every piece of evidence within your paper. You've only got 2,000 words, okay? But you can't simply present evidence without explaining to me why it's relevant or why it's important. So you have to make sure that you include analysis beyond simply presenting me with a quote or presenting me with something from a study, okay? Even though that might seem like it makes the point for you, you have to explain explicitly how it ties back into your thesis or to your argument. And so when you're editing papers over the course of this week, make sure that you're looking for, like, if the person makes a claim, okay, and they present evidence from a source or from a paper, please make sure that they are explicitly explaining how that evidence ties back into their thesis, how it ties back into their argument, okay? That's going to be very, very important, okay? So that's something that you should be looking for when you are peer reviewing papers over the course of the week, okay? All right, so let's stop right now and I'll answer any questions that people have about that at this point in time. Question?
Are we gonna die from the coronavirus?
What's that?
Probably.
Are we gonna die from the coronavirus?
Nah.
Only if you're mine.
So,
What?
are there grades this year? Because didn't they say like grades are canceled or something?
That was school grade. So that was like the total school grade. You will still be getting a fourth quarter grade, and you will still be getting final grades for all of your classes.
Are they going to mail out our report cards?
What's that?
Are they going to mail out our report cards?
I would assume so, yes. Or you can go pick it up, or you could look on Focus. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but you will still get a fourth quarter grade. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
So, how are we gonna do the AP test? Like,
Okay, so your AP test for this class, there is no AP exam anymore. It's just your AP score is a combination of your IRR and your IWA. That's it.
Oh yeah, but like I know there's like other like 45-minute tests and like
Right.
you do it at home, so
Are you talking about for your other AP classes? Because for this one, there is no 45-minute test.
yeah, I'm talking
Yeah.
about the
So
one.
for your other AP classes, okay, it's a 45-minute test and it's online. If we are back in school by the date of the test, which is changing, so it's not, you know, it'll be in May, but it might be a different date. If we are back in school by that point in time, you will take the test at school. It'll still be online. It'll still be 45 minutes. You can still use your notes. You'll just do it during the school day. Okay.
Wait, we
You
can
can
use
use
our
our
notes?
notes.
No.
Yes. The AP exams for all classes this year are open book, open notes, but they are timed.
Let's go.
They're all 45 minutes long. You know, so unless you know what you're looking for, you are still going to have to know enough about a topic that you can find information quickly. If you're completely clueless, there's no way that in 45 minutes you are going to have time to fully read up on a topic and then write an essay if it's history, or complete open-ended problems if it's math, okay? Because it is still a timed test. And the reason that it's open book and open notes this year is because if you're taking it at home, honestly, there's no way for them to regulate that. Okay.
Mhm.
They just made it open book and open notes because there's no way for them to know whether you are or aren't. So they just made it open book and open notes for everybody. Okay. Which means even if we're back at school and we take it during the school day, it'll still be open book and open notes. Now, what they have said is that different people are going to get different questions, and it's going to be completely random when you log in that morning, like which question set you might get. Okay, so for example, for AP World History, I believe they said that there's 10 different questions, okay, that you might answer. You will only have to answer one of them. But when you log in that morning to take the test, you won't have any idea which of those questions you're going to get until you log in that morning, which means if you and your friend are going to try to take it together, you guys might log in and you might have question 2, your friend might have question 7. So you won't know if you have the same questions until that day when you log in. Okay.
I like those odds.
So it's completely random. But like I said, for our class, none of that matters because all you're doing for our class is you're submitting to your online portfolio. You are simply submitting your IRR and your IWA. And like I said, for the IRRs, I'm going to be returning all of those to you, and we're going to spend the month of May working on them. Because the other thing that they've done is they've extended the deadline till May 26th. So we basically got an extra month. Which means we're going to use the month of May to work on fixing IRRs, okay? Because I think since you've submitted them, I think you've learned a lot more, okay? And I know many of you have already said that there's things that you wish you could change in them. And so now that it's going to be such a major part of your score, you'll have the opportunity to do that, to go back and to change your IRRs, okay? Other questions?
I like when we're working throughout the week. I like realistically, when should we be editing our papers based off of the feedback we get?
So that's up to you to work on at your own pace. What I would suggest that you do though is when you're fixing your own paper, like say somebody left you a comment, okay, and you go and you fix that particular issue, don't delete the comment. Because I need to be able to go back in and see that somebody has done what they were supposed to do, which is edit twice a week. Okay, so don't delete comments until the very, very end when we're going to submit the final drafts. Okay, leave them there just because it makes it easier for me to go back and to make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, and then I'll give you time later on this month where you can go back and you can delete everybody's comments, okay? But for the next couple of weeks, you are simply editing 2 people's papers every week, okay? And we're gonna do that probably for three weeks. That way, by the end of the 3 weeks, you will have had 6 people read your paper. And then we'll take time after that. We'll take the second half of April to kind of start revising them, okay? Yes, Erkins.
Oh no, I just started pressing buttons.
Oh, it looked like you were raising your hand.
Wait.
Oh, David raised his hand though. Go ahead, David.
So when we're doing our lenses, like, do we explicitly say what our lens is?
Yeah.
Or is it
so
implied?
Well, remember that for this paper, it has to be multiple lenses. Okay, I said 3 is probably a decent number. But if you look in that example, you'll see that they mention from the economic, legal, and something perspectives. So they did explicitly mention what those lenses were. And so yes, you should be very clear for the reader about laying out exactly what those lenses are. Okay.
Should we address those in like our intro?
What's that?
Should we like say the lenses we're gonna look at in our intro?
I think so. Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Yes. Okay. Yana?
Oh,
No.
What?
can I ask a question?
Yes. Go ahead.
So like, if we don't put the lenses in our intro, can we like put it as a heading for our body paragraphs?
Can you what?
Can you put it as a heading for the body paragraph?
You
that?
can, but the lenses still need to be introduced during the introductory paragraph in some form, because I don't see how you can write a thesis statement without having an idea of where you're going in terms of lenses. Like think of introducing lenses as part of your thesis statement. Okay, it kind of needs to be in there. Okay.
Can you, Mr. Ailey?
Yep.
Can you see like the question that Cody is asking in the chat?
Let me see.
I was gonna read it, but like it's a lot, and I'll feel like it. So.
Okay, hold
Yeah,
on.
me too.
Okay, here we go. If we didn't intro the stimulus packet source in the intro, but I use it lightly in the first lens and heavily in another, and lightly in the last one, is that fine? Yes, as long as we use our lenses points to relate to the on article. I don't know what the second part means. If we didn't intro the stimulus packet source in the intro, but I use it lightly in the first lens. Oh, he just repeated the question. Okay.
I sent the question.
Yeah,
Bro, you need to learn how to.
So Cody, to answer the first part of your question, if we didn't issue the stimulus packet source in the intro, but it's used lightly in the first lens, heavily in another, and then lightly in the last, is that okay? Yes, it's okay. It sounds like you're using it enough, so that's fine. I would be careful. Okay, if you can work it into your introduction, I would, but if there's no way at all to make it a part of your introduction, then that's fine. All right, and then the second part of your question, as long as we use our lenses to relate to the article. Yeah, you should be using lenses to relate back to the article or articles, yes. Does that help, Cody? You can type yes or no. Yes, okay, good. All right. Tanis, do you have a question? No, Erkins gave me a thumbs up. Any other questions?
What if we use both sources, like that we pull from the packet, like if we use both extensively?
That's fine. You know, it's a minimum of one source extensively. If you use multiple sources extensively, that's okay too. Just make sure that you are using outside research as well, okay? And so just to be clear, you can't only use sources from the stimulus packet. You have to find your own research as well, okay? That is important because one of the things that they're going to score you on, if you look at that rubric, is that you are using outside resources. So it's fine if you use multiple sources from the packet. Just make sure that you are supplementing it with a lot of outside resources. Okay, excellent question. Okay.
Bro, that's your dad.
That's my stepdad, dude.
Higher.
Ooh.
Any other questions?
Beto,
I have
mi
a
profesor está
question.
diciendo hola.
Okay, somebody
Yo, bro.
has a question.
What?
Yeah.
Somebody said I have a question, then they never.
Yeah, that's me.
Go ahead, Milo.
Yeah, okay. So during our IRRs, you
Mhm.
said that we should mention about 11-ish sources. How many sources do you think we should mention?
I would say about 11 is fine.
11 sources.
Déjame mezclar.
I mean, so keep in mind that that is not a firm number. Okay, you might have more, you might have less, and also keep in mind that some of those sources might just be something that you mention once, like in passing. You are not using 11 sources extensively. Okay, it might just be that you mention it once. But I would say about 10, is a decent number for total sources, keeping in mind that you're probably using between 3 and 5 sources extensively, and then the other 5 might just be supplements, okay? Might just be things that you're using once, maybe twice, okay? But you're probably using between 3 and 5 sources as major research. Tanis, you look like you had a question about that. Go ahead.
So, I forgot. I'll tell you when I remember.
Okay. Any other questions? So before we,
I remember.
Tanis and then Amanda. Go ahead, Tanis first.
Are there like guidelines for how you want us to like peer review the papers like last time, or just do whatever?
You mean for like the format?
Yeah, because last time we had to do that whole packet thing.
Yes, so there is, it is going to follow the same format with the title page and the running heads and all of that. And
no, not that.
Oh, what do you mean?
Like peer review.
No. All you have to do for the peer review is just comment bubbles. There is not a separate packet or anything. It's just comments. Okay? Excellent question. All right, Amanda, go ahead.
I feel like this is a dumb question, but like, you know how we're supposed to put our works cited at the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
I was manually doing the works cited for the packet, and at the part where it says retrieve from, do you want us to search where the article's from, or like, do you want us to put from College Board, or like?
No, if it says retrieved from, then that's what you would put as the source, where it came from. It'll be retrieved from, and then it's just like a website address, right?
I mean, I don't see like a website address on the packet.
Which of the sources is it?
Well, it's multiple. Like, I'm using multiple sources, but like, do you want us to go online and search where it is
all
from?
of the sources in the packet are cited either right at the beginning or right at the end of the source. They're all properly cited for you. You just have to copy it. Like, you shouldn't have to go looking it up. Like, citation is there for all of them.
Right?
I think that's what you're asking. But the citations should all be right there for you. You shouldn't have to look them up. Perkins, that's a lovely view of your forehead.
Sir?
Thank you.
That's kinky, bro.
Can I ask a question?
Appreciate the compliment.
David, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Really, David?
Yeah, so how do you
God damn it, David.
how do you cite a YouTube video?
How do you cite a YouTube video? So you are going to cite it as an online source. If you go to the Purdue OWL page, it will show you. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick right now. So if I go to, like, if I were just to go and I Google that, citing, because honestly, I don't know off the top of my head, citing a YouTube video in APA format. Yeah, if you go to EasyBib, it will walk you through that. Here's the Purdue OWL page. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, off the top of my head, I don't know. It looks like you're including the last name and the first name of the person
My camera's.
You're including the last name and the first name of the person who uploaded it, the year, month, and the date that it was uploaded, the title, and then the link. So it's just as easy as that, David, okay?
What website is this?
This is easybib.com.
EasyBib?
Yeah, as in bibliography. I will post the link to this on the Teams page after we are finished. But it looks like for a YouTube video, it's the last name and the first name of the person who uploaded it, the year, month, and the date that it was uploaded, the title of the video, and then the URL. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right, so something to think about as we wind down for today. Those of you who were writing about happiness specifically related to the Disney parks, and I know a lot of you were talking about artificial realities and how the Disney parks are kind of cut off from the real world. Kind of an interesting perspective on that you might want to work into your writing is with this whole pandemic that is taking place right now. That is very much a real world problem that has affected even the fake reality, if you will, of the Disney parks, right? They are not immune to that. Okay, the parks have been closed for the last 3 weeks. They're going to be closed for the next month. And so, you know, that might be something that you want to think about or to work into your writing, that even they are not completely immune from problems of the real world, as this pandemic, you know, has kind of shown, okay? And even if it's not just the parks, even if you're talking about the films, right? They have pushed back a lot of their movie releases until after this is over, okay? You know, so even Disney is not immune from the problems of the real world. So that, you know, that might be something that you want to think about, okay? All right, are there any other questions? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna end this then. I will post the video of this later this afternoon. I will also be holding office hours from 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock. I'm gonna go eat my lunch right now, and then I'll be logged in around 1 o'clock.
What are you eating?
A ham sandwich.
Ooh.
So you can ask me any kind of questions or anything that you have between 1 and 4. And I will see you guys then. All right, any other questions?
No.
All right, have a wonderful day, everybody. We will meet again on Thursday morning at the same time. And I will see you all then. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Adios.